What's going on, everybody? It's BDO44 coming at you with another video. So my intention was to clean my bathroom, and as I was doing so, I was listening to one of the segments this morning on the sports channel, and they were essentially clarifying the truth about what's going on with Ben Simmons. So being that I've been talking about it on this channel, I got to be responsible to make sure I share that as well. So the Tyrese Maxey aspect of the situation, him being used as a pawn to try to get leverage going on, that is being denied. They're saying that is not true. That is a false situation. Tyrese Maxey looking forward to starting the season with the Philadelphia 76ers. He expects to be in camp. So Maxey side of things, that's not true. All that is false. Ben Simmons does, in fact, want to go to any team. The California teams thing, that's out the window. He wants to go anywhere, not Philly, period. That's what's being said. That's what's being confirmed. So that changes things a lot as well. And another thing about the situation is that, well, he's still planning on holding out. He's not going to be reporting to camp. There is absolutely no chance that he plans on doing so. And the Philadelphia 76ers, it's been reported by Nick Wright that they have also no interest in giving a damn about what the hell Ben Simmons feels about being traded at this point. They're going to hold out until they can get the type of return that they're hoping to receive, and they're going to call their bluff. And it's going to cost Ben Simmons a whole lot of money. I think it's somewhere in the mid-November is the beginning of when he would start getting docked for holding out. I'm not certain exactly the date. I'll find out for you and tell you at a time in the future. But right now, I know for certain he's getting docked a lot of money at that point. And when he, when he starts training camp, I'm not sure if he's going to hold out. Once he sees people running around the basketball floor, he's going to understand, in my opinion, that his value can't be raised by sitting down. The last thing we saw from him was him playing poorly. Holding out makes more sense for a person who's coming off, say, an MVP season or something like that, or coming off a Rookie of the Year season or something like that, because you last saw them in a great body of work, in a good light. Him is the complete opposite. So the longer he holds out, the lower his value goes. That's bad for both parties. I don't know that I know that they see that as bad for Philadelphia right now in terms of him being moved. But what this also does is gives them a paper trail of holding out under these type of circumstances, which we all see aren't right. Ben Simmons, he needs to make sure that he understands all of the angles of what it is that he's doing. Because Philadelphia is going to be they're going to be the franchise after he's gone. These are billionaires. They're going to be cool, man. You're the one that's going to try to continue your career in basketball. And this is a bad business decision. This is not a good business decision. This is the way you go about ruining your reputation going forward so that people don't want to deal with you. I've seen this before with several players, some of them who were able to redeem their reputation, others who were not able to. This is one of those situations where, with all due respect, those guys who I'm thinking about, they didn't have as many holes in their game as you do. They weren't as difficult to put on teams from a basketball perspective as you are. So, like, it's one of those things where it's like, accountability is not only something that you need to understand in terms of growing up and becoming a better person, but also in terms of business. It's a display. You have to show people that you are willing to take accountability so that they can invest in you and trust that you are going to be a professional, that you're going to do what it is that they implement for you to do, both on the floor and off of it. So, these type of things somebody needs to tell this guy the truth, man. Like, playing hardball right now don't benefit you. It may benefit your management team. It may benefit Clutch playing hardball because it positions them in a certain way to let them flex their power and display their way the way they want to go. But for Ben Simmons, an athlete who only has a lifespan of maybe 12 to 15 years in a basketball, to do this in year 5, man, you're setting the wrong precedent. You're setting the wrong precedent. I remember Dwight Howard had a bad reputation because he was making trouble, like, in some ways. Difference between him and you, lots of accolades. Lots of them, man. He had more all-star appearances, more, of a load on his shoulders. No Joel Embiid to his Ben Simmons. It was just him. It's a different look, man. So it's like certain things that he's trying to get away with. Ben Simmons is, I don't think work for him. They work for other players, but this formula doesn't necessarily work for him. And driving his value to the ground, giving Philadelphia the finger on the way out, he's going to be the most hated person in Philadelphia. Like one of the most hated sports figures maybe ever in the city of Philadelphia. I already see that coming. You thought KD and OKC was bad. That ain't nothing at all to what Ben Simmons is going to be feeling when he come to Philadelphia to play pretty much for the rest of his career. Not just this year. It's going to be every year. Because they're going to remember how he did them, and they're going to remember that it wasn't none of their fault at all. It wasn't none of them turning their back on him. It was him letting them down, sticking his chest out about it, and saying, I ain't going to do nothing about it. F y'all didn't believe in me. What's there to believe in, Ben? You let them all down, bro. Face that demon the right way. Feel bad about that like you're supposed to, instead of sticking your chest out and running from that feeling. Because that's all this is. You running from that feeling, but you know you let them people down. Let's keep it a buck. You know that. They can be mad at you. They can sit up here and say they don't believe in you. The Doc Rivers thing, I had forgotten about that, y'all. I did. The Doc Rivers statement was huge. And I probably mentioned it back in the day, but as of recent, I had forgotten about that statement. I remember Joel's, though. But, Doc basically said, hey, man, I don't believe in this kid in a roundabout way. They asked him specifically, do you think Ben Simmons could be the point guard of a championship team? He said, I don't know how to answer that right now. But here's the part of that statement that stuck out for me. And I look at things differently. The word point guard. The word point guard. And if Doc Rivers was savvy in that moment a bit more, he would have been able to express the specifics of that, and it would have gave him somewhat of an out. Because I think Ben Simmons can win a championship in this league. And I think he can facilitate and do all the things that he does as a player from a different position. If you ask Doc Rivers, does he think he can win a championship with Ben Simmons? Maybe he answers it differently. Maybe. But if you ask him if he could be a point guard to win a championship, that's a specific question about his positioning in leading the team to a championship from that particular point of view. No, maybe not as a point guard. But as a power forward or as a center in a small ball lineup, maybe it's a different conversation. You see what I'm saying? And this is what I was trying to explain a little earlier in a previous video in regards to whether or not Joel Embiid and Ben Simmons could fit with one another or would be willing to play with one another. I don't think there's anything wrong with them playing together. I just thought that they couldn't play together in this system, the system that was provided them in Philadelphia. That's the key, in my opinion. So Doc Rivers kind of allowed that statement out of his mouth, and then from there to kind of spiral without following it up with the right type of stuff that would instill some type of difference, in what Ben Simmons would be feeling and hearing that, something else to kind of go with it. Like, okay, I definitely believe I can win a championship with this kid, or something else to go along with that, but nothing else seemed to follow. You know what I mean? And so if the coach don't believe in me, the fans obviously mad at me. Joel, in a roundabout way, is blaming me for the loss, even though he's not, but we know it's Joel, so we know what he's implying. It's just like, let me get up out of here. It's one of those. They tried to trade me for James Harden, playing games. I don't know what they're doing. They didn't even make the trade. That right there is incompetent in and of itself. But, it's just time to move on from Philly, and I get it. I think this is a means of him doing it. As I said recently, I think he probably got a whiff of them dragging their feet on other trades, asking for the price to be way above what it should be to get him out of there. Basically not trying to really trade him. And he wants to press the issue, man. It's 3 weeks from training camps. It's 3 weeks from training camp. He wants to be a part of a franchise. And he doesn't want to be in Philly, so this needs to hurry up. That's how he's looking at it. He's trying to expedite the process, but it's not the way to go about it. And most importantly, giving everybody the finger on the way out is just going to make things harder for him later on. That's my opinion on that. It's just going to make things harder. Now it's about where they can find him, a place for him. Removing that California thing is a good idea. Tell if you really want to get out of somewhere, you just got to get somewhere else, man. And then once you get there, you can find out what you want to do, play out the season, and then you can demand your trade to wherever destination when things start to open up for you. But it's too close to the end of the season, the beginning of the season, to try to ask people to move things around and make room for you. It's just not realistic. And also, there's another side of this that I was thinking about this morning that I hadn't spoken to you guys about. It's kind of, it's one of those things where when you drive your value down, you make sure that the team you're going to is not giving so much up to get you. So that's an angle to think about. You know, it's from that perspective, it makes sense for him to drive his value down. You know, you're now being an asset to the team that you're headed to. Sort of like what Kawhi did in trying to hold out against the Lakers 2 summers ago, so that we could not get the players that we needed to make us better while waiting for him to figure out whether or not he wanted to sign with us at the Clippers. Same thing. So that from that perspective, I get it. But there's so many other things that go wrong when you try to strategize that way in this situation that it just doesn't make any sense from a trying to get out of here quickly standpoint. So, yeah, man, that's what I see. That's what I see right there. But, yeah, the Tyrese Maxey thing is false. I think he will be a Philadelphia 76er. I'm hopeful that Doc Rivers can work him in as a lead guard for that team because he's one of the better players on that roster right now. And, you know, see what happens with him going forward. The thing about that bothered me, which is why I'm glad this is false, is that Tyrese Maxey was drafted by the Philadelphia 76ers. Let's say in some wild way, he reaches his highest potential and is, you know, eligible for the Supermax. If he gets traded, it's not possible for him to receive that. Staying with your drafted team really is within the best interest of a player who has superstar aspirations. Now, I do not know that Tyrese Maxey would ever be eligible for that. I'm not sure his upside is that way. But what I'm saying is you remove the possibility of such a point for him to reach. And I don't think that's ever in a player's best interest unless they're simply miserable where they're drafted. You know, if you want out, then that's what you're paying for. But if you stay, that Supermax is something you can aim for. So if I were Tyrese Maxey, I would like to see that available to me at some point. You know what I mean? Regardless of what y'all think of my potential, I'm reaching for the top, and I want to see that there. So, you know, I think all athletes feel that way. So that's a big part, man. It's a huge incentive for players to stay with these teams. I think that's what it's about, is keeping them in small markets, keeping them in places maybe they otherwise wouldn't want to see their future. If you can get $207 million, maybe you start dreaming a little differently about where you're at. You know what I mean? So that's what it's about. That's what the Supermax is. And to be honest, it's working. Guys are taking the money. A lot of guys are signing that Supermax. I never thought Trae Young would ever sign that. I never thought he would get it, and never thought he would sign it if he did. Happened. You know what I mean? Look at Rudy Gobert. Look at all these guys who have Luka Doncic. You know, they're staying with their teams, and that's exactly what it's supposed to do. So, unfortunately, with Ben Simmons, that is not the case. He's getting the hell out of there, and so on and so forth. That's pretty much it. I think it's worth it to him, obviously, but I'll tell you this: if I were him, when my emotions settle down, when I heal up a little bit, when time starts to chill, and get me into a space where I can kind of be away from all this, I think when I look back on this, I wish I left Philly under different circumstances. And I don't think it's too late for him to make that decision. And I wouldn't be surprised if between now and the start of the season, he comes around to seeing it that way. Because it really was on him. He didn't play well. The last image was bad, and he spent his whole career in Philly. He's made all-star teams in Philly. He's had playoff games in Philly where he did play well. And his tenure in Philly should not be just that. He had some really tough days and some really good days and some hard sweat and some working out and some, you know, anything that a player goes throughout the process of turning into an all-star in one spot. You don't want to end like this. Even if it's love-hate, you don't want to end on I failed, I look bad, and I gave people the finger because I couldn't face my own demons. Like, what is that? That's not how you want to be remembered, bro. Straight, that ain't how nobody want to be remembered. That is not the hill to die on. So if I were him, I'd go talk to who I need to talk to, go to whoever church, whatever your thing is. Get your head right, bro. Because you're about to make a mistake that you can't undo. And in making that mistake, you look bad. because it's simply a maturity thing. It's a mind thing. It's not necessarily something that you're gonna look back and be proud that you stood up on that. You ain't gonna be proud you stood up on that. Not on this. You know what I mean? Men, especially young men, we gotta be wise about what we attach our names to early. I know we young, we live and see our lives a certain way, but ask the old people who are around you. When you attach your name to certain things, when you stand on certain hills, that shit don't go away. People still remember those things, and you still live with those things. You're gonna be 37 years old, people still gonna be asking you about stuff that you were talking about now at 25. You don't want your name attached to that stuff. You don't want your kid's name and your family name attached to that stuff. You don't want the woman in your life to have to answer questions about that. I'm telling you, bro, it's a different level of understanding when you've lived a little bit and you understand the type of things that these types of mistakes make. You are going to pay a price for this that is far more expensive than what it is you're trying to accomplish and feeling the way you're trying to feel. That's the bottom line. It would be easier for you long term to just say, yo, yeah, I got to go get my head right, man. There's some stuff going on that made it so that I didn't have my mind in the game. I'm going to work it out, and I'm going to come back better. That's the only way to approach it. And then you dig deep and you go for it. Because otherwise, you just lighting your own stuff on fire, man. Like, that's all you doing. We all just looking at you like this dude is a little kid who can't grow up. Like, we've been down this road with other players, man. That's why I feel like I know what to say, because it's like, we've seen this before. You're not the first person to just not want to take accountability. You're not the first person to just not get it. But you don't want to have to still be answering questions when you're my age about what it is you did back then. Just not worth it. Just not worth it. So that's what I say to him and anybody else that would apply to. Be careful what you attach your name to and what you do. That's basically what I'm saying. So it is what it is, man. Accountability is the easier path to take after all. My name is BDF44. Thank y'all for watching. I'm out.